So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me, and ISSEM. Thank you for the privilege. I'll be speaking on an important topic for us sports physicians, that is supplement use, its safety, and I will be trying to speak about some myths and some facts about that. So with this, a proper diet can make an average athlete elite, but a poor diet can make an elite athlete average. So with this Gyan, we begin. Why do we need to know this? We need to know this because, as per the National Anti-Doping Agency anti-doping rules, all of these members, which is on the slide, are governed by the rules. The last two sentences: participate in any capacity, in any activity, organized, held, convened, or authorized by a national sports federation or its affiliated members. And the other next sentence, non-affiliated members. So that means anybody who is involved with sports in any way is governed by the National Anti-Doping Agency anti-doping rules. How do you define dietary supplements? The USD Supplement Health and Education Act defines it as dietary supplements are something which are added to the diet, either vitamins, minerals, amino acids, herbs, or botanicals, and metabolites, constituents, extracts, or combination of any of these ingredients. To put it simply, it is a combination of concentrated nutrients which are taken in adequate and prescribed quantity at specific timings, which would complement the training efforts in addition to the actual food. History, it is nothing new. People have been using supplements for a long time, since 300 BC to 1800s and to the early 1960s, when four doctors came together at the University of Florida to help the football team. They told them to start taking sugar and salt and water. They were initially mocked at, and later on it caught on fast. These four doctors went on to establish the company called Gatorade. In 1980s, some colleges, university, and football teams started hiring dietitians, and soon well-known athletes started crediting nutrition with their success. Why do we need good nutrition? We are all familiar with the supercompensation curve. I am not going into the details. If you have a good diet, you can train harder and longer. If you train harder and longer, you put more overload on the body. When you put more overload on the body, there is an enhanced adaptation. And when there is an enhanced adaptation, you have a fitter or more stronger athlete. Why do we use supplements in sportsmen? It's a long list. We are mainly concerned in it provides energy, improves muscle tissue growth, increases bone mineral density, prevents muscle tissue damage, improves certain physiological functions, improves recovery following exercise, which is very important for us, enhances energy producing metabolic pathways, regulates body temperature, increases oxygen transport and delivery, and more importantly, it is a concentrated source of nutrients, by which I mean, if you look at this chart, it shows the protein content of various foods. Now, if you look at one egg, it is 6 to 7 grams. If you look at 1 cup of milk, it says 8 to 10 grams. But if you look at the last line, protein drinks and powders, it is 10 to 45 grams per serving. So in sports persons, it's a very important tool by which you can give an energy dense and an energy rich food in using smaller quantities. What are the different types of supplements which are available? You have carb shakes and bars, protein shakes and bars, sports drinks, energy drinks, vitamin supplements, iron calcium supplements, and something which are called ergogenic aids. A quick look at the WADA prohibited list. We should all be aware of this. There are 9 classes, and all these are prohibited from use in any sportsman. There are 3 methods which are prohibited. I'm not going into details, but we should be aware of these. Okay, So what does the National Anti-Doping Agency say about supplement use by sportsmen, or what do they advise? They advise the sportsman to check warnings. They advise the sportsman to read the literature. They advise the athlete to go by other athletes' experience. They advise the sportsman to ask the product and the manufacturer or the dealer. They advise the athlete to do its own research. They advise the athlete to take advice from third-party physician or from other websites. They advise the athlete to look at the behavior of other athletes and what is the objective of the intake. Now, if you look at this whole slide, there is nothing which tells us or tells the athlete what to do, how to do, and when to do. Now, it is important why. In a recent study, which was funded by the International Olympic Commission, 634 products from 13 countries and 215 different suppliers were analyzed, out of which 94 were found to contain anabolic steroids and it was not declared on the label. 23 products contained steroid precursors. It was not declared on the label. 64 products contained testosterone precursors and 7 products contained nandrolone precursors. Okay, this is one study. Another study done in South Africa, 40% of over-the-counter supplements contained banned substances. Now, this is a very important study. In India, we have a long tradition of using herbals. We all think that herbals are safe. Now, this is a study which was done to look at the components of herbal extracts. Now, if I look at this, herbal tea blend contains caffeine, ephedrine, pseudoephedrine. Cola extract, mahuang extract contains caffeine, pseudoephedrine, metallephedrine. Guarana extract, mahuang extract, caffeine, ephedrine, pseudoephedrine. Again, caffeine, ephedrine, pseudoephedrine. Now, we all know that the pseudoephedrine group is banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency. So, even if you look at the herbals, they are not safe. So, be careful. What we follow is a very simple thumb rule. No Ayurvedic, no herbals for athletes, full stop. Okay, the same study looked at some pro-hormones which were found in the similar nutrition supplements. If you look at the supplements, branch chain amino acids containing DHEA and 4-androstenedione, Tribulus terrestris, if the label says Tribulus or Maca, run. Do not consume those supplements because they contain pro-hormone of testosterone. So what I mean to say is the supplements available in the market are not safe. Even if it says on the label it is safe. Now, this is a recent review article which says that 447 studies were done, they were perused. In these studies, supplements prohibited by FWADA were found in most of the supplements analyzed in this review, including prohormones and stimulants. The rates of contamination were between 12 and 58%. And the review article goes on to say, athletes, coaches must be aware of contaminated supplements. Again, it means to say that the market is flooded with supplements, all of which are not safe. Now, what are the safety issues for us, for our athletes? There may be possible adulteration of the product with hidden drugs. There may be contamination with heavy metals, pesticides, solvents, or microbiological agents. And the label claim and the ingredients may be false. Now, in this background, how are we going to look for safe supplements? There are certain third-party certifications which can be done around the world. These are 4 of the companies which do third-party certifications. BSSG, LGC, and NSF also ensure that the product has been tested for and does not contain ingredients banned by the World Anti-Doping Agency. That means if you want to look for safe supplements, look for the first 3 logos. The last logo, they do not test for substances banned in sport. They only verify the ingredients and the amounts. Okay, now this leads us to a very important question for us. What are the Can the National Drug Testing Laboratory, NADA, WADA, test supplements and certify as dope-free? No, they cannot. They do not have the mandate. Can any Indian laboratory certify supplements as dope-free? No. As of now, no. Can any international laboratory certify supplements as dope-free? Yes. There are certain international laboratories, and we discussed about 3 of them in the last slide. How often do the product needs to be tested as dope-free? To certify any product as dope-free, you have to check that each batch of the product is being tested and certified as dope-free. A product which was tested 10 years ago as dope-free has got no meaning now. Every batch has to be tested as dope-free and certified. Then only you can be confident that it is safe. Now, who is responsible if the products are found to contain banned substances? The World Anti-Doping Agency and the NADA rules are very clear. The athlete is responsible, full stop. Can the athlete test the products for dope-free? No. As of now, this facility does not exist. Are dope-free certified products available in India? Yes, they are. If you email me, I'll give you the brand name. I will not disclose the brand name during the lecture because the company, I'm not sponsored by anybody. Okay, now we go on to the supplement myths, which are there in the environment, and we'll try and either say yes to them or demolish them as we go along. The first myth: creatine is supposed to be used for all sports. No. Supplementation with creatine may improve exercise performance in adults performing high intensity, short duration exercises. That means creatine is utilized or is beneficial only in short duration events, that is anaerobic events. Vegetarian athletes are healthier. No. Vegetarian athletes do have low heart rate, cancer and blood pressure and diabetes mellitus rates, but the studies show it is more due to a healthier lifestyle. If an athlete is a pure vegan, the diet is unhealthy if it is not being supplemented. If the athlete is a vegetarian athlete, you will need to give him iron supplementation because iron from plant sources has got low absorption rates. Vitamins and minerals give energy. Another common myth: no, vitamins and minerals do not give energy. They act as catalysts and cofactors during the energy production, and they may be necessary for some category of athletes as an insurance policy to prevent micronutrient and vitamin deficiencies. Some specific categories do need them. However, all athletes do not need them. Sports drinks are unnecessary. It is said to be that sports drinks are a conspiracy by a company called Gatorade and similar companies to sell their products, but no, sports drinks are required during intense activity and in hot, humid weather. Carbohydrates in the sport drinks help to maintain blood glucose levels during the exercise. If the hydration beverage is flavored, that means if the drink is flavored, athletes will consume more fluids. Sodium and carbohydrates in the fluid causes faster fluid absorption. Sodium maintains a drive to continue drinking fluids during the exercise. And sodium also helps the body to retain the fluid that is consumed. Okay, this is a small chart which shows the different compositions of proteins, carbs, etc., and sodium, potassium, etc., in the sports drinks. Now you select these sports drinks based on the carbohydrate concentration. If the drink has got a carbohydrate concentration less than 6%, you use it as a pre-event and an in-event drink. If the protein concentration is there, if it is added protein and the carbohydrate concentration is high, then you use it as a recovery drink and you do not use it as a pre or in competition drink. Shakes, bars and drinks can replace a balanced diet. No, it is a convenient method to boost athlete nutrient needs during training, competition and travel. But there are several key nutrients which are missing and it cannot replace a balanced diet. More protein, more muscle. Again, No, it does not translate to that. Athletes do need more protein than non-athletes, but more important is the timing of the protein and the quality of the protein. And if you're giving a recovery drink with high carb, it is always beneficial if you add about 10 to 20% of protein so that the drink improves the recovery post exercise. Fluids during exercise slow you down. No, it does not do so because fluid loss is the single largest contributor to fatigue during exercise. In fact, nowadays, the American College of Sports Medicine recommends that all athletes have tailor made fluid intakes during their exercise as per their sweat rate. And drinking fluids during exercise improves performance and increases the endurance. Avoid dehydration at all costs. No, does not say so. You have to avoid dehydration, yes, because even if you're dehydrated more than 2%, your body becomes weak and you start having reduced exercise performance. However, in shorter competitions, you may skip this because if you keep fueling during the shorter competitions, you are wasting time. So what we advise to do is rather than avoiding dehydration at all costs, athletes are advised to stay in the hydration zone during exercise. That is a body weight between normal weight before exercise and 2% below that weight. So between that weight, he is supposed to maintain the body weight with hydration. Simple carbohydrates are bad for athletes. Not exactly, not every time. Muscles need carbs during exercise so that it can be digested and absorbed quickly. So simple carbs help here. Simple carbs after exercise are more effective in switching the switch from catabolism to anabolism. Complex carbs are normally used during the training phase, before meal, in competition, and post competition. You generally prefer simple carbohydrates because the glycemic index is higher and they help in recovery. Carbohydrate loading improves performance in everybody. No, it doesn't happen that way. It happens only in endurance athletes, and short sprints or short events do not benefit from carbohydrate loading. Carbohydrate loading is helpful only in situations where glycogen reserves are going to be depleted, like long distance running, marathon, etc. If you eat pasta the night before an endurance event, this constitutes carbohydrate loading. No, it doesn't, because carbohydrate loading requires a combination of tapering exercise and increased carb consumption over a few days and weeks. If you have a single high carbohydrate meal prior to the event, this is not a method of carbohydrate loading and it is not going to help you by boosting your muscle glycogen levels. So, this is not a myth, which is correct. No eating before exercise. Again, this is wrong. Your pre-exercise meal is important because and it depends on the intensity and duration of exercise. If you eat before exercise, you don't feel hungry and your glycogen stores are improved. Your pre-exercise meal should be high in carbohydrates, moderate in protein, low in fat and low in fiber, and it should be taken 2 to 4 hours before the exercise. Okay, now we come to something very important, which are fad diets for sportsmen. There are several fad diets which are there in the world, which so many of our celebrities and athletes are also endorsing right now. But fad diets give you all of these: osteoporosis, kidney failure, ketosis, insomnia, loss of muscle mass, dehydration, increased risk of injury, nutritional imbalances, reduced endurances, and reduces the immunity. So, with respect to fat diet, I have only one thing to say: forget fat diets, not for athletes. If you want to use them, please go ahead, be my guest, but do not prescribe them for your athletes. Now we come to something called diet calculation. Now, how do we calculate your diet for your athletes? A very simple fact is a diet is calculated based on your energy expenditure. The factors which influence this calculation are the type of sport, the training and competition schedule, the sex of the athlete, age, climate, and location. Now, I'll give you a small example how this is done. Now, you look at the daily activities of the athlete, you look at the duration, and you look at something called PAL, PAR values. Now, you can do diet calculation on PAL, PAR values or kilocalories per hour per kg. Now, if you look at the diet calculation with PAL, PAR, it is 5525 kilocalories per day. If you look at the kilocalories per hour per kg, it comes to 6278. There is a big difference. Now, for athletes and sportsmen, we do kilocalories per hour per day calculation because it is more accurate and the calculation is very simple. There is a chart given in this book, chapter 4, Nutrition in Sports, by the IOC. Now, this is a very important book. This Encyclopedia of Sports Medicine is a very important book. It has got 14 volumes and we should all have a copy, or we should have gone through it at least once or twice. Now, chapter 4 of this book gives you how to do the diet calculation for every athlete based on his energy expenditure. Okay. Now, to sum up, how do we, or what do we do? How do we advise our sportsmen? Number one, diet is always natural food first based on the total kilocalorie calculation. Once you have calculated your total kilocalorie calculation, always maximum calories to be given by natural food first. After that, you can decide the type of components of the food which you want to. There is a very new concept or a very important concept which has come in, which is called timing of diet or periodization of sports nutrition, which is a topic for another lecture. And only once you finish all these 3 steps do you start using supplements to make up your micronutrient deficiencies, to make up for deficiencies during travel, to give your in-competition meal, for your pre-competition meal, for post-competition recovery. All these things you will use your supplements, but it is always natural diet first. So this slide or this pyramid is what is the sum or take home message of all the lecture today. So be careful while using supplements because not all supplements are dope free and not all supplements contain what it says on the label. Be very careful while using herbals because risk of contamination with heavy metals, risk of contamination with prohormones, and risk of contamination with banned substances is very, very high in herbals. A thumb rule, simple thumb rule which we follow is for sportsmen, no herbals of any kind, irrespective of how confident you are. Be very careful while using energy drinks, again, because they contain several banned substances or herbal components in them, which may or may not be suitable for your athlete. I have finished, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. My email is on the slide. Any questions, you may email me directly.